Welcome, 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 Black people, to the Movement for Black Lives post-election roundtable. My name is Kayla Reed. I use the she, her pronouns. I am a Black woman with long faux locks and a green top with glasses, and I am a leader in the Movement for Black Lives and one of the co-founders of the Electoral Justice Project. And I am so honored to be with you this evening and so excited to be in this conversation with you all and our guests today. But I'm not alone. I got my sister friend here with me, and I'm so excited for y'all to be in conversation with us. Jamisha Gray Jammy Jam. How you doing?
Hey, I'm actually super excited. Y'all. Like Kayla said, my name is Jenese Gray. I go by the She and They series. I am a fat, dark-skinned Black woman with a gap, and I'm wearing a silver mock neck and a maroon jumper. I describe myself like that for a reason, because here at the Movement for Black Lives, y'all, we have made a commitment to disability justice and being as accessible and inclusive as possible. With that being said, I would like to introduce y'all and acknowledge our ASL interpreters, both Jenese and Nora, who will be here switching out, making sure that we can reach as many people as possible. On that note, tonight,
Well, tonight.
we got some beautiful Black leaders, and I'm gonna just name drop a few.
Just
we
a few.
have the Carissa Lewis, the Colette Pichon Battle, my man Philip Agnew. I mean, we have Cori Bush, who just got a
Congresswoman elect from the
Congresswoman
first congressional
elect.
district of Missouri, aka St. Louis,
Yeah.
USA.
Amen.
Elect Cori Bush.
Yeah, we also have Inset Mfu of New Georgia Project. We also have with us VM Adams out of Freedom Inc. So we have like a lot of great movement leaders here tonight, and we're going to talk about the election and what next.
Yeah. So you may be asking yourself, why are we here? Trump lost. Black people made it happen. The road to the White House for the Democratic Party was paved by Black voters. Black people did it, and Black movement did it. Be clear. Those cities that stood up and flipped those states and flipped that electoral college, those were our places. Those were our people are. We're so very grateful for the hard labor of organizers that did this work. Black people defeated Trump. The moment to celebrate, to acknowledge that labor, but we also have to acknowledge that the work is not done. The election is over, but the work is not done. We are hosting this roundtable tonight to take stock of where we go from here while keeping our bold vision for Black lives as our North Star.
Yeah, we did. Thank you, Kayla. Like, y'all, Black voter turnout did that. Black organizers, LGBTQ community did that. And we know that this was nothing but an affirmation of how real our power is and how powerful we actually are as a collective. And so we know, once again, that our fight is far from over. What we do now is actually hold these elected officials accountable. And we're going to do that by constantly organizing to make sure we hold them up to the demands and asks that come right out of the Black liberation movement. Kayla.
For sure. And all month long is Black November. And like we told you, for months at a time, we will be here with you before, during, and after the election. It is now officially after the election. And we are still here, and we still have so much work to do. We are just so excited to talk about what's next for electoral justice, our Red, Black, and Green New Deal, the Breathe Act, and our vision for Black lives. We're continuing on the path to building political power for Black people and building a political home for all Black folks. Many of us have been doing this work for years, and we are ready to meet this moment. We have been working tirelessly to change the political landscape for Black folks everywhere, and we can't wait to have this conversation today. As we continue to expand our vision with so many brilliant movement leaders. So that's enough of us talking, because let me tell you, this first guest, heavy hitter, you know what I'm saying? Strategist, literally is we just owe this person so many thank yous, because she has been such a phenomenal leader in this work. Down in Georgia, the incomparable, the powerful,
Speak
Y'all
on
not
it.
really ready because you like who's she about to say? It's so many badass Black women coming out of Georgia. You don't know really where I'm about to go. So shout out to Georgia, period. All the organizations there, and shout out to this phenomenal woman who's about to join us, the honorable, the illustrious Stacey Abrams. You know, let's go. Let's go. Stacey, welcome.
Thank you so much, Kayla, for the very generous introduction. Thank you, Jenese, for having me. Thank you all. I'm excited to be with you. I bring you greetings on behalf of Georgia. I want to start by talking about 1992. In 1992, I was a freshman at Spelman College. And in April of 92, I was taking my exams along with all the students at the AUC at Spelman, Morehouse, Morris Brown, Clark Atlanta. And we heard the Rodney King decision. Across the country, there were protests. I refuse to use the word riot because riot presumes you own power and that there is justice, or that what you were railing against is not yours. We had protests, and these protests were necessary. At Spelman, I helped organize a protest with friends from across the 4 campuses. We marched in the streets, and when they tear gassed our campus, we tied up the phone lines. This is for those of you under the age of 40. Those are these things that used to connect phones together. We made it hard for them to tell misinformation. Back then, when disinformation showed up on the TV, you could just call the radio station or the television station because there were only 5 of them, and you could try to get things corrected. So that's what I was doing in 92. I had also spent that year registering voters because I'd grown up in a family that believed in the right to vote. My dad was arrested at the age of 14 for registering Black people in Hattiesburg, Mississippi in 1964. And so I grew up understanding the responsibility we had to hold to the right to vote. But my parents also raised me to understand that protest is responsibility, that you protest in the streets to demand your rights, you protest at the ballot box to secure those rights, and you protest in the hall of power to hold those rights accountable and to hold those accountable for delivering those rights. But back in 1992, I tasted the first because I'd finally been old enough to vote in a primary. I was part of the issue of protesting because I was angry about what was happening to Black children, to Black young people, to Black men and women at the hands of police that for the first time was captured on film and broadcast around the world. I was angry, but I was also energized because I believed this was a moment of change, because I got to get into an argument with the mayor of Atlanta and he gave me a job helping to shift policy. But the reality was that by the time April turned into May and May turned into June and June became July, people were complaining about the cost of protest, but the protests were gone. And even though we were in the midst of a presidential election, by the time we got to November, Rodney King wasn't the conversation. Police brutality wasn't the conversation. There was no argument about whether we deserved more, about whether Black Lives Matter, because the only conversations ignored the plight that led to those protests. So I sit here today in 2020 and think about, oh my God, what has been wrought by protests in the streets was sustained by protests at the ballot box. And we have gotten closer to change than we have in 30 years. But what has to come next is protesting in the halls of power, because voting is not magic. And we do not elect saviors or magicians. We elect people with clay feet who tried their best to be better than they are. And if we want them to deliver what they have promised, we've got to hold them accountable every single day. I went into politics not because I like it, but because I know I need it. I need politicians to pass the laws to protect access to healthcare, to actually deliver healthcare. I need politicians to do their jobs and ensure that people actually have jobs, one job, not 5 or 6 to make ends meet. I need politicians to do their work, to demand justice. And that justice can't be on a slogan and it can't be on a bumper sticker. It has to be real, it has to be meaningful, and it has to cut across so many issues that we have to stand in their way and stand in their face and sometimes stand in their shoes to make it so. And so I'm here today to thank you for what you have done across this country. Because as excited as we are about Georgia, let's be clear, we mitigated voter suppression across this country, in Wisconsin, in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Arizona, in Nevada. Across this country, we made it easier for people to protest in the halls of power because they were able to protest at the ballot boxes, because they heard the call when they protested in the streets. And so I want to thank you for how you have helped organize and deliver our people to this moment. But let's remember that the moment isn't over. The movement is not over. Because if we don't protest in the halls of power, we will get what we deserve. Because if you don't pay attention, you deserve to be ignored. If you don't pay attention, you deserve to be cheated. If we won't pay attention to our own needs, how dare we think that others will do it for us? We have this moment, and we have proven our power from sea to shining sea. And now it is time for us to direct that power, not only to Washington, D.C., but into the halls of power when our state legislatures return, in the halls of power when city councils and county commissions start to deploy money from COVID relief. When they start making choices about our futures, we need to be standing there telling them what the future needs to look like. And so I'm going to stop now by saying that I believe in the movement for Black Lives. I believe in the mission, because I've spent 30 years trying to make this mission work. And I did it in the Deep South. And if we can make movement here, we can make it anywhere. So thank you, Movement for Black Lives, for what you're doing. But more importantly, let's get it done all the way. Take care and have a wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
Wow.
I honestly, anytime I'm in a room with Black women, I just feel the need to say, can we pass the plate? Because I feel like Stacey was dropping gems. And can we please get that soundbite? I would, break out into a Holy Ghost dance, but I got to stay in frame. That's how I feel.
I think that the parts that are so significant are this feast that we won in spite of, right? In spite of persistent attempts to suppress our vote. Before we voted, at the day of the election, and even after, we saw so many ballots be thrown out, so many ballots attempt to be thrown out. And this is why we're fighting for electoral justice, right? Because we know that this attempt at democracy is flawed, and it's broken. And we have to have a structural analysis of the reasons why our folks are prohibited from voting. And we have to have a power analysis on why voting even matters in the first place. And so grateful that Miss Stacey dropped in for a second and dropped gems along the way as we get ready to have this post-election discussion. And that was just the first guest.
The first guest, y'all ain't even know that.
That was just the first guest. We only been here for like 20 minutes. We got more heavy hitters in the row. They're standing in line, in virtual line, in the green room, waiting to come out swinging. So I won't talk too much more because they don't want to hear from us.
They don't. Y'all didn't come here for us. But you might have came here for our next guest. Our next guest, the Carissa Lewis, who is the National Field Director of the Movement for Black Lives. I'm so honored to know and work in conversation with you tonight. Look at her. Oof.
Hey, Bills.
How you doing?
Good. Y'all set me up, having me come after Stacey.
I mean, we didn't make the agenda. But, we just did the MC.
Well, it's a real honor and privilege to be on the call with y'all. I will name that I did get on this call for y'all. They're not going to speak their own praises, but let the record book state that Jenese and Kayla are changing hearts, minds, and conditions for our people. And so I'm grateful to be in community and kinship and friendship with y'all. So as they named, I'm Carissa Lewis. I'm the National Field Director for the Movement for Black Lives. I'm a caramel skinned Black woman. I have a line down my face and a haircut on the side that's supposed to be clear that I am gay. Okay. Can you get that from my haircut? And it's, a real honor to be here. It is clear that 2020 has been an intense year for us. What we saw over the course of the year was a culmination of multiple storms, a global pandemic, an inept federal government, an economy in crisis, and the most visible arm of the carceral state, police terror, continuing to impact our people. And as y'all named, in y'all intro, Black people delivered this Trump defeat.